In 1630s Amsterdam, you could easily lose a fortune in tulip bulbs before breakfast. This isn't a metaphor or fairy tale. It's true. Tulip bulbs in 1630s Amsterdam had prices that often exceeded what many skilled laborers would have earned over several years. And no one seemed to know how this made any sense until they didn't. So, what did people really buy and sell in the Dutch Republic? Petals, pigment, or something dark, such as status, desperation, or perhaps even a new kind of financial magic? You can follow the money as well as the verbal exchange because while Tulip Mania is often told as a joke with a punchline, when you read through the records, it starts to feel a little less humorous. The primary question isn't how could they, but rather why did it work? In a small republic that is wealthy and part of global commerce due to many ships bringing back spices, silver, and stories, there is a merchant class who learns that paper can create wealth much faster than physical trade can create it. The first tulips that came from the Ottoman Empire were seen as exotic trophies. The broken tulips, flame-like streaks caused by a virus, are viewed as a conspiracy by nature. They represent the beauty created by illness and the unique created by destruction. Thus, a new language was created through the scarcity of these bulbs. They became valuable items owned, displayed, and bragged about, but without any coats of arms. Virtually every bulb has been given a unique name. But why at that point did the market explode? Was it the novelty of the luxurious status symbol? Was there a growing credit and speculation market? Or simply a feeling that value in general could be defined differently than it had been?
Then the weird part. Most deals were made within a contract. For example, the companies would decide that they needed tulips later and write their contract in a tavern for a price that was half of what they would cost in the future. The tulip bulb was also traded on the contract as wind handles, meaning they were buying a tulip bulb with no idea of what the future value of that tulip was. If I can sell a tulip on Tuesday that I don't own before Tuesday and can sell it at a profit on Tuesday, and people think the price will keep going up, then what is the point of having the tulip bulb? The tulip itself becomes a vehicle for transferring faith and belief of the crowd to the tulip contract, rather than being valued for what it is. At what point does the market stop valuing a tulip bulb for the price of its existence and begin to value a tulip bulb for the belief of the sigil of someone else? When you look a little deeper, you can see how the hysteria is truly hidden by some basic human needs. A rare bulb represents a piece of a larger story we can own by linking ourselves to them, being knowledgeable about them, being associated with them, and being very lucky to have them, all qualities that are transmittable through good fortune. When someone tells you about their neighbor doing extraordinarily well by taking a profit on their contract, your fear is not that you are going to lose money. However, it is that you will be the only person in your area that wasn't invited into this new opportunity or game of being associated with something special. The Netherlands had a historically advanced economy at the time, and these were not just innocent people easily deceived by some criminal. So how does intelligence fail to protect you in this situation? Perhaps the more intelligent one becomes, the better they have been at rationalizing reasons for wanting to join in when everyone around them appears to be winning.
While it is a more contemporary view, there is an alternate perspective on this situation that adds to how we understand participation and the mythos of tulips. As participation increases, so do the number of participants in the tulip market and the mythos surrounding tulips. The pamphlets and sermons that came out at this time have an element of ridicule towards the mania of tulips. However, the market price keeps climbing, suggesting that the ridicule is now a way of feeding the tulip price. Some reports suggest that people are going into the tulip market to avoid their current situation, their social status, etc., not necessarily so that they own tulips. This explains how a tulip contract can equal the purchasing price of a house. Therefore, justification is not needed for their actions. All that is needed is a door to the tulip market. Once a sufficient number of doors have been opened to the tulip market, the entire tulip market will begin to function like a mechanism that converts hope into price. Could the Tulip Mania be viewed as a collective negotiation with the social reality of the time, rather than a collective insanity?
Then comes the collapse, and it's rarely as cinematic as people imagine. No single villain steps forward, no official announcement says, "The bubble is over." Instead, there's a failure, an auction where bids don't appear, a buyer who hesitates, a moment when someone tries to sell and discovers the room has changed. In February 1637, confidence fractures, and what was liquid becomes sticky. Contracts that felt like money turn back into mere promises, and promises are heavy when everyone wants out at once. Here's the uncomfortable question. If a market depends on belief, is it ever stable, or is it always one rumor away from gravity? Following the tulip crash, parties involved in tulip contracts debated whether they were morally and legally binding and whether they owed payment. Certain parties renegotiated and differed on this issue, and many believed this became less about tulips and more about the legal implications of collective delusion in the case of the tulip crash and issues of trust. A unique myth developed around tulip contracts. First, some believe that the story of the tulip buys was exaggerated by later historians as a moral lesson. A second theory is that the story of the tulip bubble was limited to a small number of people, in contrast to what many think was the case. The last theory suggests that while some people in the tulip market suffered at the edge of the bubble, it did not have as broad of an impact as others. These myths around the tulip crash exemplify the broader difficulty in providing a definitive answer to the relationship between asset bubbles and investor behavior. If there is no agreement among historians regarding the size and scope of the tulip market, what does this mean about how we think about all of the financial markets since the tulip crash?
Now, connect the dots to the hidden mechanics: a luxury good with built-in rarity, a thriving credit culture, informal contract markets, social climbing, and a feedback loop of stories. None of this requires mass insanity. It requires incentives that head in the wrong direction for too long. Tulip Mania becomes a lab experiment on human expectation, but the lab is a city, and the participants are real. The darker theory is that the bulb was never the point. The point was the feeling of being ahead of everyone else, the feeling of holding a secret. If you can buy into that feeling, do you care what the token is?